In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. This verse was plastered on my mother's fridge for years. Every time I came home from university, she made sure I confronted this piece of ancient wisdom. Maybe you're at the point in your life where the next step seems daunting, or maybe you don't know where your life is going. You've prayed to God over and over again, and yet nothing seems to be happening. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. I'm reminded of the Israelites when they're leaving Egypt. Pharaoh suddenly changes his mind and decides to chase after them. The Israelites are in this narrow section of land, caught between the mountains and the sea. They're trapped. They know the Egyptians will soon overtake them. Was this God's plan all along, to leave them in ruin, to be silent while the enemy assails his children? Just when everything seems at its worst, when death seems inevitable and the path ahead is non-existent, God does the miraculous. Through Moses, God opens the waters of the sea, making a passage where none existed before. For us Christians, we've heard the story over and over again and seen it depicted on TV and film numerous times. The underlying message is often glazed over. You see, there's a curious passage that comes before this event. It says this: when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them to the road through the Philistine country, though this was shorter. For God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. You see, we often frame this story from the perspective of the Israelites. There are people caught by their circumstances and unable to move. It makes for a greater drama when God shows up and performs the miraculous. But the verse we just read casts light on another dimension of the story. God intended them to land between a literal rock and a hard place. God could have taken them the shorter way, the easier way through Philistine country. But he chose to bring them the hard way, the way in which they would have to depend on God for salvation and preservation. Sometimes we can find ourselves in a place of waiting, where our backs are up against a mountain on one side and a sea on the other. The enemy is coming down the hill towards us and we blame God. How come I couldn't get where I need to go? Well, sometimes God actually directs you away from the easy path towards one of difficulty. The specific phraseology is important here. God took them away from a shorter path through Philistine country. Now, the Philistines were not native Mesopotamians. Their culture would have been more in common with Greek maritime culture, but they were idolaters, violent offenders. Their influence on the region was potent. Whether through war or evil influence, had the Israelites wandered the easy road, they would have found themselves in a world of pain. They simply weren't ready to deal with the Philistines on multiple levels. God was calling the Israelites into the wilderness to build a relationship. When the time was right, they would face their enemies more directly, but the desert was an opportunity to test the Israelites' dependence upon God. How far would their trust extend along a dark and winding road? You see, the easy road is a poor metric for trust and faith. If God gives me everything I want, whenever I ask for it, how can I trust him? And how can he know that I trust him? The easy road leads to a kind of assumption about the origin of gifts. I'll begin to believe that I am the cause of my own good fortune. But the difficult path puts trust in context. True faith can only be known when life seemingly lacks goodness, when things don't go my way. Then will I trust God and his promises of love and caregiving, or will I curse him? Another biblical character, Job, dealt with the same issue, trust and faith in believing in the goodness of God, even when worldly circumstances are telling us not to. Why is this important? Because the difficult road is made not only for our faith, but that we might grow in it. This is why James says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." Maybe you're tired of your circumstances, or maybe you're waiting on God to direct your steps. It's tempting to give up or try things your own way, but maybe God has you right where you need to be to help you grow your faith, to help you grow in greater dependence on Him. At the end of the day, are you where you are because of God? Maybe. Maybe it's your own decisions or external circumstances, but God wants to grow you in this season, to grow in greater dependence upon Him, to grow in wisdom. Don't miss out on the opportunity. And don't forget, God will part the waters. Your miracle will come. But in the meantime, God is calling you to deeper intimacy in the desert with Him.